Talking about three core principles that we feel help in the real estate growth segments of our careers, things that have kind of helped us grow in our personal careers. I've been in real estate for 10 years now. Started when I was 23 and now I'm 33. That equals 10. Yeah.
Good math.
Yeah, I'm old. And
That's
Maxx,
all you needed to say.
Maxx is a spring chicken. 3 years in now, approximately.
Almost, yeah, 2.5.
I looked at a property like 6 months before that.
Yeah.
He was like leased an apartment 6 months before we worked together, so we'll call it 3 years. So the three principles that have helped us in our growth, different parts of our careers, or my career, going from property management into brokerage, into acquisitions, into starting an investment company with Maxx. Hustle, relationships, and knowledge. So those are the three things that we're going to be talking about, those three segments of why each one of those is a critical component to the growth of someone who's trying to make it in real estate, and probably most other difficult businesses, or probably any business, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I know when I joined you, this was something that you talked a lot about, and you actually created a banner with the Goldfinger Group logo, a nice emoji.
I didn't create it, but yeah.
You had the idea. We had Cole help us
That's
out.
Right, yeah.
Our wonderful Cole, who helped with all our marketing. You said, this business, if you want to be successful, you have to hustle, you have to create the relationships, and you have to get the knowledge, right? You're not going to start with the knowledge, but you have to get it. And it's something that you've said to me from day one, and that you've constantly told myself and our team, that real estate, if you want to make it in real estate, you want to be successful, classify clarify whatever your degree of success is in real estate, but you have to work hard, you have to hustle, because nothing comes easy, and there's a lot of people trying to do it. You have to create the relationships. There's a lot of businesses that are done on computers. They don't really interface with people. Real estate is still one of the industries that is so face-to-face, whether it is a phone call, right? We still cold call. How many businesses are still cold calling today, right? Real estate does. And it's knowledge. You have to talk the talk. You can't just walk the walk. You have to talk the talk at some point, right? You're not going to have it from day one, but you gotta know what you're doing in real estate for credibility purposes. And these are three things that I know have kind of been near and dear to you, that you say, everybody that joins the Goldfinger Group, this is what it's about. These are the things you need to bring to the table and do if you want to make it in real estate.
Right, and it goes for every stage, because we're still in the infancy stage relative to where we see and where we hope to grow the Goldfinger Group. We're still in a very infancy stage. We hope to grow and look back on these days and can't believe that we were doing $2 million deals, and now we're doing $200 million deals. So we're looking forward to continuous growth. And the reason I mention that is because the hustle, the knowledge, and the relationships are not. It's not like, okay, you get into the business and then you do a deal, and then all of a sudden, okay, so now you're doing $1 million deals, let's say. But in order to get to the $5 million range, so whatever that next ladder, the next rung on the ladder is, it's going to take hustle, it's going to take relationships, it's going to take knowledge. But certainly, probably the biggest hurdle is, like they say, making the first million is the hardest. Doing your first deal is the hardest. Taking the first step is the hardest for an infant. So at the beginning, this is what I realized was that people respect if you hustle, right? When you're starting in real estate and don't have a MBA or some fancy degree, even if you do have an MBA or a law degree or something, but in terms of practical knowledge, in terms of experience and doing deals, if you haven't done it yet, you're really starting with nothing, which is fine. It's just the reality. It's how the world works. You get into a new industry, so what do you have to bring to the table? So the first thing I realized that the harder I work, the luckier I get. So when I was making a lot of cold calls, I realized that when people felt that I was excited to talk to them, that I was persistent in calling them, and obviously staying polite, but also being aggressive and really having a determination to succeed and working hard, and sending out reply emails at 10:45 at night or later. People respect hard work, and so the world has a way of rewarding hard work. So that's on the hustle side. And then once you've hustled and won someone over by your hustle, then you have the opportunity to hopefully build a relationship with that person. And through those relationships, you'll either gain knowledge because that person will hopefully advise you, give you some insights or advice on how to do more deals or how to improve your business. And then through those relationships, through those experiences, will come the knowledge by either experience, exposure, or just through conversation, understanding how they become successful and how you or I can take that and relate it to how we're trying to grow.
Absolutely. And I know when I started with you, I came in the door, it was actually my first day. I sat down and you're like, okay, there's your desk, open your laptop, start making calls. And I'm like, what do you mean start making calls, right? I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't know, okay, what was I supposed to call on? Who was I supposed to call? What was I supposed to say? What was I supposed to ask? What information am I seeking, right? I didn't know all these things, right? I didn't have the knowledge. But what I did have was the drive, the determination to put in the hours, put in the work, and find a way to make it happen. So that was the hustle piece, right? You come in, the only thing that you have, like you said, you haven't built the relationships, you don't have the knowledge yet, but those come through working your behind off. I was going to use a different word, but we'll stick with that. Families watching. So, all you can really do is bring your work ethic to the table. I always say, like, every day there's two things you get to decide. That's your effort and your attitude. And that's what hustle is, right? If you have a positive attitude and you say, hey, I'm going to put everything I have in today, put 100% of what you have, right? People say 70%, 110, just put 100% of what you have that day, every single day, and you're going to start chipping away and making strides. And real estate is a long game business, right? It doesn't happen overnight. If you look at the turnover, the attrition that happens in this industry, there's so much of it within the first year. And the people that really make it, when we look at people who have been doing it 30 to 50 years, it's because they worked so hard and stuck with that. As my dad and I say, and you were saying this, and this is a line that my dad and I have, is polite persistence. It's following up with people, talking to people. Everybody says, like, don't take no for an answer. I don't really believe in that, but just find a strategy to stay at whatever.
That could land you in jail.
Maybe.
Not speaking from experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think to kind of illustrate it, if you see someone who's really determined and you see it there, they have a lot of energy, they have a lot of passion, they have a lot of drive, they have a lot of persistence and confidence, and they have a determination to succeed, you're going to want to jump on that train because you feel like, hey, they're going somewhere. This person is determined, they're going somewhere, they're hustling, they're pushing, they're shoving, they're doing whatever they have to do in order to succeed. I'm going to jump on that train. And when you're competing for a deal, let's say, and you're a young broker, you're a young acquisitions guy, and or gal, and you're competing for a deal, the broker, the listing agent, let's say, or the seller is going to go with someone who they feel like, hey, this person gives me a lot of confidence that they're going to get the job done. Because
I just want to check and make sure that this is like.
Oh, that'd be a shame.
Yeah. No, we're good. We're good. Yeah.
Okay. No shames given. So, if you see someone that is clearly on their way to success, you're going to want to jump on that train with them. You're going to want to run with them. And you're going to want to be on their team because you say, hey, this person's going to succeed. I want to do a deal with them. So as a seller, as a listing broker, there's a good likelihood that if you see someone that has that drive and obviously the backings to back them up and the right offer, the right buyer, the right track record, the right proof of funds, etc., there's a good chance that that's the person who's going to get the deal.
And I want to use an example of what you're saying, right? We're trying to figure out, well, how long have we been not dating because we're not doing that, but how long have we been in business together, right?
You should be so lucky.
So 2.5 years later, we're buying 2 properties right now, and I told you this. I said, to be honest, if this was 6 months ago, a year ago, I don't know if we'd be getting this deal. And I'll skip the deal story. Maybe we'll save that for another episode. But I really believe, I strongly believe that the reason why we're buying these 2 properties at the price we are, at the time we are, everything's coming together is because, I've worked really hard to create the relationships, create the credibility, which comes from learning real estate, being able to talk with people, relate with people, right? There's knowledge is not just how smart you are, it's also what's your capability of interacting and socializing with other people. And so because I've been doing this and been making the calls, we're able to buy these deals now, right? Like a year ago, I just don't think that I would have had the exact relationships and the credibility of everything you just talked about to get the deals how we're getting them.
And the intuition in terms of how to interact with the broker
Mm-hmm.
when you made an offer and he didn't say yes, let's just put it that way, right? And said, take a hike, and you said, sure, would you like to join me? Brendan's down the street, we can go there, that works. Would you like to go somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the hustle component. I think we've established very clearly. You gotta have that energy, you gotta have that drive, you gotta have that persistence and determination in order to get to the next stage, which is relationships. So when you get to the next stage of relationships, it's basically connecting with someone who you feel a connection with. It's gotta be mutual, they also have to feel a connection. Connections are usually built by sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
People sense sincerity, and when they see that someone's being sincere with them, and a lot of times starting off, I wish I would have told people more often instead of shaking my head and pretending like I knew. I should have said, I don't know. I mean, probably a conversation, would have been much longer because there's a lot that I still don't know, of course. But admitting, hey, I'm new in the business. I don't know what you're talking about. I want to learn. Just being more honest and sincere is like something that I, in terms of my interactions with people and, pretending like, oh, I know everything and really I knew very little. So being sincere, connecting with people, finding common ground, whether it's family connections, whether it's childhood experiences, whether it's, cultural similarities, whether it's a favorite ice cream flavor. I mean, it really, sports team, it could really be anything, but connecting with someone and then using that connection to talk about, to get into business and figure out on a relationship level, how can I add value to you? What can I do to be of service to you? And especially when you're starting out, to look at people and try to understand their needs of how can I help you? And then once you understand that, and that's kind of the way that we try to still see things, of course, which is, what is the other person on the other side of the table, on the other side of the phone, on the other side of the Zoom, what is that person trying to achieve? Once we have an understanding of that, then we can say, okay, we know what that person's goals are. Let's figure out how we can satisfy their goals, help them with their goals, help them achieve their goals. And then after we've established if we can do that, then the question is, how can we be a part of this and also benefit so that it's mutual?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a component in business and in real estate where there's a lot of like selfishness out there. What can I gain from somebody else? And I think what separates a lot of the successful people is what value can I bring to that other person? And there may not be any gain for me aside from, that person coming out better than where they were before. So, and with relationships, I think one of the biggest things is you have to be able to read the situation. There's a lot of calls that we make, or a lot of people that we're talking to, and we shoot the breeze for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. And then there's some people that just like pick up the phone and want to get straight to business. So a really key component is figuring out who you're talking to, what style they are, right? And mirroring their style. If they want to talk for 5 minutes about the Lakers and the Dodgers winning the World Series and the championship, and they want to talk about where they went for dinner the night before, great. But then if the person's not doing that and they're calling about the deal, like don't force the conversation to create a relationship. It just may not be there, or may be on the back end of the conversation. So I think having social awareness in your interactions with people is really a key component of developing the relationships.
It's another intuition thing, right? And it's the type of thing that just kind of develops over time, over talking. And it's like most things in life where the more I do, the better I get, right? Not me, everyone, right? The more anyone does, the better that they're going to get. So invariably, year one, no one's going to be as seasoned or as polished as year 10, right? I mean, it's really, amazing what you've done in 2.5 years to get to the point.
Depends who's grading.
Exactly. But really, it's the type of thing where you can start off not being able to read a situation, not being able to read, and what's really important also is that in terms of relationships is to have an outlook, okay? And the outlook doesn't have to be the same outlook that we have. And we certainly have different outlooks about many different things, right? But when we're talking about this broad stroke of relationships, it's having a perception of how I want to interact with the world, how I want to treat other people. And if that is looking for mutual benefit, if it's looking for win-win, and you can tell, you can sense, you have an intuition that the person that you're interfacing with does not have a win-win attitude, does not have a mutual benefit attitude, and is just there to be selfish, then you gotta just pass. You know, you gotta respectfully say, I don't think that this is, you don't have to say outright, this is not the right relationship, but look, there's a lot of people in the world. I always think to myself, if we can get 1% of the millionaires in the world to invest with us, there's so many people out there, even within Los Angeles real estate, there's so many people, and not everyone's going to like Elijah Korobkin, right? And that's a fact, because it's just, for whatever reason, but there's plenty of people out there, and you don't have to do business with everyone. So that's another intuition piece in terms of the relationships, is having a gut feeling for who am I interacting with, what are their values, what are their morals, what are their principles, and is that someone who is aligned, not just business-wise, is there a way that we can make money together, but are we aligned in the way that we think and see the world?
Absolutely. And then the knowledge component, I think, comes from these things, right? Is hustling to put in the time and energy to learn your craft and become more of an expert. I mean, we're always learning, but you can become more knowledgeable, have a deeper understanding, be able to talk about, I remember when I showed up, I was like, how do I figure out what a GRM is in a certain submarket? How do I learn the price per foot we're gonna buy at over here versus there, right? These were things that I had to hustle to learn. And so hustle is the component of knowledge. And I also think relationships, right? You meet the right people who have been doing it for 20, 30 years or 10 years, that have, because they've been so involved, they know things that I'm not going to know coming to the industry being new. So, this knowledge component, I think, is kind of both, and it takes time, right? You're not going to show up and all of a sudden know something. And even when you go to school, right? You have to learn how 1 + 1 = 2, and that's about the extent of your math on your napkin when we run numbers, even though we come within about, 2% of where we're going to buy a property. But, the knowledge is just you can't expect to know it. And you have to develop the relationships and put in the time and energy to develop the knowledge.
All right, and the more knowledge that you have through hustling and building relationships, you build a knowledge base, whether you're trying to or not. It just happens through the experience and the exposure. That knowledge that you have is a tool to build more relationships, because once you have knowledge, you can add value to other people. We're in a data business, we're in an information business, that you're talking about being relevant to other people on the phone, talking about this deal traded for that, we just bought that, I saw that one sold. Knowing what's going on in the marketplace, that knowledge, and it's not just about comps, it's about everything. It's about financing, where interest rates are, treasury, there's
laws.
Exactly, yeah. And we talk about, the propositions on the ballots, and having this knowledge, and then what are the ways that you can add value? You can do an ADU, right? And so having the knowledge, that is the value. That data is so crucial and valuable to other people that when you're able to give that to them without any expectation, I'm not going to send you a bill for a consult or anything. No, we're here to talk, and I'm giving you I'm going to introduce you to someone, I'm going to give you information, I'm going to just give, and there's no expectation of receiving. That will also help to build relationships.
Exactly, builds relationships. You're hustling, it feeds into the hustle component, then that feeds back into the knowledge, and I think it just kind of keeps growing.
Yes.
And you see the people that have been doing it as long as they have and have had the success, that's how they've done it.
And the people that have gone really way up the ladder, that have really climbed to the top, and we're talking about the Blackstones, the Equity Resident, the Sam Zells, and the real big, and not, by the way, not just in real estate, but in all industries and all facets. But there's no growth in the comfort zone, right? In the known zone, the comfort zone, there's not going to be growth. Growth happens by hustling, by building more relationships, by building knowledge base, and again, can't happen without hustle. We're going to keep hustling. Hope to continue to bring value to everyone, all of our viewers. Thank you for watching.
Any questions?
Yes, if you have any questions, you can DM Max, even though he doesn't have Instagram.
Oh, everybody loves you. Nobody likes me on this thing.